let's talk about why it is so damn hard to ask for help. Let me know if you see yourself in this. You would rather suffer than ask somebody for help because it is too much to explain yourself to them. You feel guilty when you need something. You feel like you maybe need to pay somebody back and even the scales. You feel like a complete burden when somebody helps you, even if they're being nice about it. You push yourself way past your limits because you would rather die in a lake of fire than need anybody. What if that's not just your personality? What if that is something your nervous system learned to do to keep you safe? Let's talk about the difference between healthy independence and hyper independence. Healthy independence looks like I can take care of myself and I can also let other people support me. Hyper independence looks like I need to be able to take care of myself because letting somebody else support me feels deeply uncomfortable, very unsafe. I've always done it on my own. If I ask for help, somebody's inevitably going to do it wrong or let me down. I'm creating this video because it is deeply personal to my experience. So, I was one of those kids growing up that learned very quickly to suppress my needs because there was a lot of chaos going around. In my adulthood, I lost both my parents by my mid 20s. So, I spent a lot of time learning how to cope with things on my own. Anymore, I don't have shame around this because I know that this was just a very brilliant and beautiful response of my nervous system to keep me safe. I am so glad that my body did what it had to do in order to keep me alive in those moments. But when I got sick, I was forced to face this hyper independence before I really was ready to. Chronic illness can heighten hyper independence so much. Well meaning people can infantilize us. And in worst case scenarios, people think we're just attention seeking or that we're lazy, and they treat us as such. It is vulnerable to possibly allow somebody to let you down. It is really frustrating that your needs are ever changing, so you have to constantly readjust to saying what you need to the people in your space. And beyond anything, it just is a horrible feeling to feel that shame and to feel like a burden for asking for what you need. And the space we often find ourselves in is that we desperately need that support, and we also feel deeply unsafe or deeply uncomfortable for needing said support. So there's no shame around this being a struggle because, of course, it makes so much sense. Your nervous system learns by lived experience. So if historically needing something from somebody else looked like disappointment, abandonment, being gaslit, or being criticized, your body probably learned I'm actually safer when I don't need anything from anyone. And back then, that might have been true. But that response can continue even after you're now surrounded by safe people and in a completely different place. And the important thing to note here is that your body isn't being intentionally difficult and intentionally sabotaging your life. It is using an old strategy, an old story to protect you. So, what we need to do now is update that story, update that protective mechanism, and let our bodies know okay, actually, everything is fine and we are safe. We can ask for what we need. Living with chronic illness and chronic pain can create experiences that are really overwhelming for the nervous system. We experience grief, isolation, and things that are just really difficult to process. And often we are left to process these things on our own. What we know about trauma is that it is not necessarily the event that happened to you, it's how that event impacted your nervous system and impacted your body. So, if you experience something really overwhelming, something devastating, full of grief and loss, and you're left to process it on your own, your body kind of gets stuck in this loop of a stress response because it was never met with adequate care, support, resources, and comforting in order to return to a state of relative safety. Those of us with chronic illness and chronic pain living in a hyper individualistic society are often left to deal with these very upsetting things on our own, which can turn something that's already hard into something way harder. So here's the $1 million question. How do I heal my hyper independence? First things first, it's slowly. Healing the nervous system takes time and consistency. We need to start with awareness before we start with anything else. So, in your day to day life, notice where you refuse help or you very begrudgingly accept help. Notice that moment and pause. Ask yourself, do I actually not want help? Or does receiving help make me feel deeply uncomfortable? Because those are two different things. So, if your answer is, it makes me feel deeply uncomfortable, anxious, full of shame, this slew of things, that's okay. We don't need to label those things as bad. That's just how your body is responding automatically to this situation. What you're going to do is practice receiving small, bite sized things. Let somebody cook a meal for you or make you tea. Don't immediately reciprocate. Don't try and even the scales. If someone buys you lunch and they say, trust me, it's on me, don't go Venmoing them later. Sit with that discomfort for a second and notice it for what it is. A protective response and an old strategy. And then notice what happens in your body when you do receive that thing. Do you feel this tightness in your chest? Do you feel a lump in your throat? Do you feel like you want to run away? That's all okay. But the change happens with noticing these things. It's not about uh, practicing it perfectly. It's about practicing it because practice makes progress. Bite sized pieces, little moments of safety, even though it's a little uncomfortable, that is how we expand our window of tolerance. That's how we expand our nervous system's capacity to handle this type of discomfort. That is how we heal. And the last, probably most important part of all of this is find people who don't require you to explain yourself constantly. Find people who understand what it's like to live in a very unpredictable body, a body that lives with pain, a body that lives with discomfort. Often it's easier to receive from people like that than it is to receive from somebody who just doesn't fucking get it. I think we've been duped into believing that healing looks like not needing anybody and being completely self sufficient. That could not be further from the truth. Healing doesn't mean being completely independent. It doesn't mean being completely dependent. It means being in a mixture of those two, interdependent, where you can take care of yourself and you can also let other people take care of you, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you want to crawl right out of your skin. You are allowed to have autonomy and community. There is gray area there. Maybe healing isn't learning how to carry everything by yourself, but it's actually learning that you don't have to. If you are a young adult struggling with chronic illness and chronic pain, I created a free workshop for you called You Are Not Failing at Healing. I made this for the version of myself that needed to hear those words so badly. So if you're looking to reconnect with yourself, feel a little bit safer, and shed some shame, then click the link in the description and I will send it to you. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful day. Oh my God, you're beautiful. You're amazing. I love you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Bye.